Welcome to Coder Conversations. This is Kevin.
And this is TC.
And today we have Raionio CEO Laurence Cohen. How's it going, man?
Good to be here with you guys. How are you guys doing?
Can't complain.
Pretty good.
Good.
So yeah, man, we know you have a company called Rayon.io, and it's pretty ambitious. Can you tell us a little bit about it and what you're attempting to do?
Sure. So Rayon is a platform for companies to build their own community of technologists and to hire developers through. What we're doing differently is that we're actually looking to solve several problems for companies, including ensuring that companies are able to build and maintain their own community of developers. I think, and again, Kevin, Terence, I know we guys have discussed this before. There's huge changes that we're seeing in the jobs market right now. There's huge opportunities, but there's also huge concerns. And the problem that we're trying to solve more than anything right now in the initial days is that when an internal recruiter leaves a company, when an employee leaves a company, they're taking their network of developers with them. They're taking their software engineers with them, right? And with Rayon, what we're doing is we're allowing the company to own the network, not the individual recruiter. So again, it allows them to, over time, create a sustainable community of developers, where it means that the recruitment process isn't reactive. And what we mean by that is that right now, if you're a company, you're thinking, right, we need to go out there and get 5 back-end engineers. We need to get 5 front-end engineers. Let's go source them. You've then got a team that are using multiple platforms to try and find the right people. What we're doing differently is we're saying, actually, don't have that reactive approach. Don't go out there last minute and just try and find people immediately. Build that network. Show off what you're doing for the candidate. Show off what your company is doing, not just to make money, but to actually improve the world. There's a huge emphasis right now on diversity and inclusion. There's a huge focus from the developers that they don't want to just go and work at, one of the big companies, right? They want to work at a company where they can actually make an impact, where the impact goes way beyond the individual. And I think that the huge benefit there to us is that people are much more conscious about what company they work for. And they want to be able to help people beyond just themselves. I think that when I was entering the jobs market, it was much easier to get an interview. It was much easier to find a company. But we didn't think about finding a company that was focused on actually changing the world. We didn't focus on trying to find a company that cared about plastics in the ocean or the climate crisis. And with Rayon.io, our focus is to actually bring on board startups and scale-ups and those companies that have a company mission that goes beyond just financial and a company vision that looks to actually better the world.
So like what does the process look like for the company, and how does it look like for the developer, like if they want to interact with your site?
Yes. So again, like any other platform, they can come to Rayon.io. They can create a profile. We obviously encourage users to take the time to actually make sure they provide relevant information for companies. And what they'll notice, what we're doing differently, is that we're trying to take away any bias from the hiring process, right? So they can add a picture, and we want them to, but the picture is blurred out. Their contact details and everything is blurred out. And it's only once they reach out to the company, or once the company reaches out to them, and they decide, they say, actually, this is a company I would consider working for. This is a company I want to learn more about. Once they've connected with them, can the company actually see who they are, can see their profile picture, right? But because we want companies making decisions based off of substance. We want companies saying, actually, what productivity has this developer achieved previously for previous companies?
Right.
What does this developer care about? not every company is looking to say, hey, let's just get the best developer.
Right.
They're looking to say, hey, let's get the developer with the best attitude. Let's get the developer that actually cares about the things that we care about. And when I started Rayon, Emma and I, we interviewed 4,500 developers.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
It took
That's huge.
it took us about 18 months. I never once asked any of those developers about their tech stacks, what technologies they want to work on. I didn't ask them about their degree or what university they went to. What I did ask them was, what are you passionate about? What is your vision for the future of society? Where do you see humanity going? Where do you see the flaws in what we're actually doing? And then it was, how do we go about actually fixing those problems? And, I think when you're meeting with developers and you're speaking with them, it's fair to say that a lot of them are introverted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them want to be able to have brief discussions, limited conversation. But we're now entering this new generation, and we're seeing a younger, fresh generation of developers. We're seeing people that have grown up with social media in a way that, sorry, I'm showing my age here, but I didn't. I didn't grow up with social media. I think, how old would I have been when Facebook? I would have been at least 21, 22, maybe 23, right? When I first heard of Facebook.
Yeah.
And before that, sorry to sound boring and old here, but you would pick up the phone. And now we've got this generation that are using all these platforms, and they may not have, sorry, apology, they use all these platforms and they have acquired skills that allow them to promote themselves, right? Now, whether that's good or not, isn't really isn't for me to say. But what I will say is that with Rayon, we're trying to create an opportunity for developers to present themselves in their best light. Right? What do you care about? Is pay that important to you? From we speak with at least 200 companies a month, and when we say to them, what is it that developers want? They say they want companies that care. They want companies that care about diversity and inclusion. They want companies that are going to afford them the opportunities they may not have had growing up. They want to work for a company that isn't just, fintech. We get loads of candidates contacting me about, hey, do you have any contacts at fintech companies? Absolutely. And the fintech companies that we're working with, when I meet them, when we onboard them as clients, right? They're not talking to me about, have you got the best developers? They're talking to me about their mission that goes way beyond the realms of blockchain technologies or, cryptocurrencies. They're not talking to me about how they can use Rayon to engage with their customer base. They're saying, how can we communicate a clear and specific message to the developer community? How can we promote our goals as a company and share that goal with those that care about the same things as us? Because when you get developers that have a common goal with the company, what do you think happens? They want to stay. They retain. They want to retain their job as much as the company wants to retain them. And I think that as we've entered this generation of students, and I speak to a lot at UCL, a lot at Imperial College London, that sincerely care about working for companies that give a damn about the greater good. We're entering a time where so do CEOs, right? The long-term trajectory for Rayon is not about just helping people get jobs. I want to build a community of the brightest and best, right? And when we say best, we mean the best attitude, best mentality, and those that are creative, so that we can work together on solving global, social, and planetary issues. And to give it a bit more context, social issues, right? I think it's fair to say, without going overly political, governments are completely overwhelmed at the moment, and I'm not pointing fingers. But governments are overwhelmed, and I think that we can take responsibility for ourselves to ensure that we help use these technologies, existing technologies, by the
Mm.
way. They don't have to all be futuristic technologies, existing technologies, to ensure that we are giving the next generation the best opportunity.
Got it. So, okay, from a developer's perspective, right? LinkedIn is pretty much the premier job search platform. So, how does your platform differ from them? Like, what is the experience like with Rayon?
Look, let me just start by saying that I have huge respect for LinkedIn. I
Mm.
think that anyone that discounts the value that LinkedIn has added to the jobs market is deceiving themselves. And I think that any company that looks to get rid of recruiters whether it's via machine learning or some other technology, they're going to fail. And I think with Rayon, what we're trying to do is help facilitate recruiters do a better job, right? And I think that with LinkedIn, it has become like searching for a needle in a haystack. I think that, and I mean this respectfully, there's a lot of recruiters that shy away. Sorry, apologies. There's a lot of developers that shy away from using LinkedIn.
Mm.
And I think the trajectory in which LinkedIn has chosen has focused primarily on a social media platform. And a lot of people in the tech world, it's not that they don't find value in it, it's that it's much more that they will use it in a much more reactive manner, right? They'll only go on LinkedIn when they're actively like looking to get a job.
Right.
With Rayon, what we're looking to do, which we're looking to actually engage with these communities of these tech communities and actually build the resources. And we're not there yet. We're not
Mm.
even close, but we want to build the resources for these developers to actually work together on projects. And you could say, well, how's that different to GitHub? How's that different to Stack Overflow? The way in which it is different and where the value is going to be added is in the fact that actually we're going to have scientists on there. We're going to have lawyers on there. We're going to have business people, right? I'd like to, and I don't want to overpromise anything. I'd like to think that in the future, we could have venture capitalists on there that actually are accustomed to investing in startup companies. And our mantra or our tagline is helping you to help the world, right?
Hmm.
And again, we don't. It's not enough to just be on Stack Overflow. It's not enough to be on GitHub, because the best developers don't make the best business people, and the best business people, they certainly don't make the best developers, right?
Right. Yeah.
So what we're trying to say is we are trying to have a niche community. We are trying to actually say, right, what resources and what tools do you need that don't exist right now?
Mm.
And if I said I had all the answers, that would be disingenuous of me. I will say this: I have a very clear and a very specific vision for Rayon. I have a very clear and a very specific vision, and a methodology that I want to apply to ensure that people can not just come onto the platform and get jobs. That's just one value prop. That's just one value add. The other value adds is actually we want you to actually be able to come onto the platform, meet people, and actually that can help you build your company. When I started Rayon, I said to Jan, we're going to run out of money. And I said to Jan, if we run out of money, I'm going to sell my home. And it's not going to be something that is, it wasn't an emotional, it wasn't, if you don't mind me saying. And I think that a lot of the time, like the story of startups are romanticized, definitely,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't something that happened overnight. It was something that we critiqued. And I said, right, if in 7 months we get to this point, I'm going to sell my home and I'm going to fund it. What I'm not going to do is bring in the wrong people, because I had done that before and it had
Mhm.
cost dearly. So, I wanted to retain the equity, to be blunt, but I also wanted to retain the control of the company. So it was the only opportunity to. So we got to a point where it was either sell my home to help protect the company, could have lost it, right? Or it was a case of actually, do we risk bringing the wrong people in, like we've done before? So, needless to say, I took the hit. I protected the company. But what I learned from that, and what I want the development community to learn is, don't jump, right? And that's what Rayon is about. Meet other people that can sincerely help you. And the best way to do that is to find people that share your passion and share your vision for your company. It's so easy to go out there and try and find investment and think that you're going to find investment and that's going to build your company. It's not. The only thing that is going to build your company is the team and having a strong leader, right? And with Rayon, what we want people to be able to do is have a high level of transparency towards people's skills, which you don't get on LinkedIn, but more importantly, also their attitude, right? Because you have to be resilient. And the way that you actually find out who's resilient is by speaking to them, by getting to know them. Companies can do all the coding challenges they want. They can have 7 rounds of interviews, but the real interview comes after 6 months. The real interview comes when things go wrong, right? Especially a startup. So, I think that with Rayon, what we want to be able to do is help create a community where people can share their knowledge, share their experience, but also share their time and help people develop things.
Okay, so quick question. You mentioned wrong people. What does like a wrong person look like in that context, and what were they trying to do with your company that you want to avoid now?
Sure. So when we started building the platform, we started getting quite a bit of attention from investors. I was keen to work with US investors. I think, and again, that might be naivety on my behalf, but I felt that they understood the trajectory of technology in a way I just hadn't experienced in London, particularly, or I would say as far as Europe. So I worked with a young team. I trusted them. We met with VCs. They gave us a rough valuation of the company, which was much higher than I think any of us had envisaged. They felt that we had taken good strides to having a proof of concept, and we had proven that we knew how to build a community. So, the valuation was very high. It caused jealousy very quickly, like instantly. And my naivety had allowed me to put too much trust in a young team, and essentially they tried to steal the platform, right? And I'd like to, and again, I'd like to think that it was probably the best thing that actually happened to us, genuinely. And so what I learned from that was, first of all, take your time, don't rush. Actually, the best co-founders, the best team mates are probably people that you've worked with before, right? Emma and I, we've worked together 13 years. Jan has worked with me for I don't know how long now, but a long enough time, and to say that we speak for hours every day, and it's not just about development, right? It's not about just Rayon. We talk about everything, and I think that what we're trying to do is actually give developers, give business people the opportunity to meet those that share their passions, share their values, right? And get an opportunity to actually know them. Do not rush. Don't just say, hey, I'm going to give away, 10% of my company. The best co-founders, they've worked together before, they've failed together before, and they've shown that they actually believe in your vision, and to the point where it's no longer just your vision, it's a collective vision, right? And again, within society and within social media platforms, there's certainly a huge element of jealousy, maybe, right? We're looking at
Mm,
people and we're looking at people, and it's social media has become a way for us to like almost depict people's lives based off of a post, off of a photo. I'm
mhm.
saying let's take social media out of out of our screens and actually put it into a practical sense, into a way in which we can help create opportunities for others.
So yeah, Terrence, what do you think about what you've heard so far?
No, I mean, it's a great. It sounds great. It sounds great in theory. I hope that a lot of people. I hope that the platform grows. Let me preface that. I hope that it grows to a point that not so much it challenges LinkedIn, but it more so um,
Compliments it.
complements LinkedIn, right? Because LinkedIn is really popular. A lot of, especially when I was teaching at UCLA in the coding bootcamp, we pushed our students to create LinkedIn profiles, right, and to start applying to jobs. But now, with this software, Rayon, and hearing about the anonymity, right, as far as just blur out their faces, blur out their information, and actually bring together candidates and companies that actually they have that they have the same interests, they have the same mindset, but take away the social media aspect of it, right? Because again, like somebody can judge you for a post that you made, or they can look at your profile and say, okay, this is what they look like. I don't, we want to find somebody that necessarily doesn't want to, that you don't want to block a candidate based on how they look or what they post. You just want to you want to base that connection off of, do we vibe, for lack of better words? Are we speaking the same language? Are we connected at that, on a deeper level than just money and experience or skill set? Um, and I wish that something like this was around like a long time ago, because I feel like that that type of platform would go way further than just find the top developer or find the top person with the skill set and try to get them to jump ship if they work at another company, or offer them whatever they're asking just to bring them on board. Because it's like, if you just offer somebody, right, let's say you want to work with somebody, then and their pay is in the six-figure range, and they say, okay, cool, they've got the skill set, they want this price, whatever, pay them. If somebody else comes behind you 6 months later and says and whispers in their ear, hey, you work at this company, we'll pay you 10% more, come join our company, and they leave, right? Because there's no connection. It's just a job to them at that
Sure.
point. So the point I'm trying to make is I like the mission statement, I like the mantra, I like the idea, and I hope that it does take
Execution.
off. Um, I'm just thinking, like, where do you see where do you see the company going in the next 3 to 5 years,
Sure.
right? Let
Sure.
Yeah, and I guess
Oh, no,
I'll preface that question.
sure. So can I just say one thing?
Sure.
We're not looking to compete with LinkedIn.
Okay.
Anyone that looks to compete with LinkedIn, they're going to lose, right?
Mm.
LinkedIn is an absolute beast,
Hmm.
right? I'm also not a fan of competition. I
Right.
think that for any founders out there, any people that are just starting out their startup journey,
Hmm.
don't enter, or not don't enter. Think very carefully before you look to enter a huge market with huge competition, right? We all look at Tesla, and we all look at what Elon Musk has achieved there, and that is a phenomena. It really is,
Hmm.
for them to do what they've done. But I think for anyone starting out, be cautious, right? Like criticize your idea. Get other people to criticize your idea, um, and don't try and compete with LinkedIn. With us, I read a 2019 report from McKinsey, they said the AI recruitment software globally in 2019 was a $2 billion market, right? By 2024, they predicted it would be a $4 billion market. Now, the pandemic's probably sped that up. But again, the point I'm trying to make is we've entered a tiny market. We've entered a tiny market that is on the verge of
Blown
rapid.
up.
It's going to blow up, right? It's blowing
Yeah.
up. And so for anyone that is looking to start a new company, just really think and look at the size of the market. I'm a huge fan of Shark Tank. In the UK, we have the Dragon's Den. It's kind of like a not quite as adventurous version as what you guys have got. And you see so many like founders going on there saying, "Hey, this is a multi-billion-dollar market. This is a trillion-dollar market." With trillion-dollar markets comes trillion-dollar competition. So that's a word to the wise. But to answer your question, with Rayon's trajectory ideally will be this, right? And we're going to have failures. We're going to have speed bumps along the way. But the trajectory is this. We build the community to 300,000 users. I've been working with a team at Imperial College London, some brilliant, they were at Imperial College London. They've now graduated. Some brilliant mathematicians there. We will be at a point where the platform will be able to much more accurately predict which roles and which companies serve the individual user better. We would hope that we'll be in a position whereby we'll bring on enough companies who go for seed funding, right? Probably end of this year, beginning of next year. But again, I'm in no rush. I've got a few companies, one or two individuals as well that I'd specifically like to work with. I think they share my values. I think they understand the duality of the situation, particularly in America. And I think that, again, going back to my earlier point, it's about working with the right people, right? So, we're a baby company, and I'm proud of what we've done. We've got over 10,500 users. We've got over 44 companies on the platform. We will look to really focus on sales, but we will look to focus on onboarding those companies, those startups and those scale-ups that can't afford to pay traditional recruitment fees. We'll look to help them grow their community, and we'll look to create an opportunity for them to promote the social causes, right? And I think over the next sorry, Terence, was it 5 years you said?
Yeah, the range was just 3 to 5.
Yeah, I think that's 3 years. Where we are in 3 years from now, I can't accurately answer that. I've got a plan for the next few years.
Yeah.
After that, I'd like to think that my team are going to stick together as they have done, and I'd like to think that from their point, I'd like to also see them really advance in their lives. They deserve it, and that's a huge priority for me.
Nice. I'm hopeful. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm trying to not pick it apart, but I'm like, okay, well, what if this or what if that? Not to be a negative Nancy.
I can list genuinely. I want to help anyone that's watching this. I can go through all the failures we've had, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, look, it comes down to resilience at the end of the day, and I think that with what we're doing, it resonates with enough people that they're using the platform. It resonates with enough companies that they're paying to use the platform.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to how resilient we are. And one thing I would say is that my team has been tested, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I see it. Yeah. I can't. I'm not trying to downplay your efforts. I'm not trying to downplay the company. I'm definitely. I've seen some similar situation with other companies where they're tested as far as like, okay, hey, we're not doing too good as far as profit, but the team held together strong, or something didn't go too well and things looked a little funny, but the team held together strong. And I think if you have the right, it sounds like you guys have that right team, right? That you guys are that Golden State Warriors, or you guys are like the LA Lakers of
Oh,
your
look, I don't
team.
even know who the Golden State Warriors are. They're
Oh, sorry.
basketball, right?
Yeah, they're a basketball team. They're a very strong
I
basketball
know.
team. But the
You're gonna
point
have
that
to
I'm trying
speak
to make
commonly
is
to me.
the point I was trying to make is that you guys have a really solid team, and
Yeah.
it's less about the compensation and more of just the mission. Um, and I feel like if you've got that mission and you guys are all on the same boat, then you guys are going to go far. I'm really interested into like seeing where you guys go. I know you said you didn't have that 5-year plan, but I'm curious where you guys are going to be in the next 3 to 5. And I'm curious to see like the growth as far as users and companies that do join you, or use the platform. Because ideally, I wish that, like thinking about it right now, I really do wish that LinkedIn did have a situation, or they did have a version of uh, like keeping your profile anonymous, but keeping you open to work. Like, sure, I could remove my profile picture and I could black out, my name or whatever, but then uh, I feel like that would lead to a weird scenario, right? Like what's the likelihood of somebody reaching out to me if my profile picture isn't there and my name was something weird like user 12345, right?
Yeah.
What's the likelihood of a recruiter reaching out to me? But if the company knows what they're getting into beforehand, um, I feel like they've already got it in their head. Like they're not looking for somebody based on their skill set. They're
Sure.
looking for that deeper level connection.
Look, I
So
mean, LinkedIn is a phenomena, right?
yeah,
LinkedIn is a phenomena, and they're doing very well for themselves. Like
right.
they know exactly what they're doing.
Of
Mm.
course.
I think that where they have to tread carefully, and it is a sensitive subject. So I'm
Mhm.
happy to take any questions on this. Is with diversity and inclusion, right?
Right.
We're now
Right.
seeing, for me, I'm speaking to a lot of companies, and they will very openly say to me, we're looking to hire a specific gender, or we're looking to hire a you know a from a specific ethnicity or a specific background, right?
Mhm.
From my perspective, I believe in equal opportunity, right? I don't believe in equal outcome. Just unfortunately, the world doesn't work that way, right? And I don't know. I don't know if we would necessarily want it to, because I've known Kevin a while now, and
Mm.
Kevin's probably one of the hardest working people I know, right? And I think that those that work as hard as Kevin should be rewarded for it. And I think that where Rayon is able to create a unique dynamic is in actually saying to companies, we're going to help you achieve your hiring goals, but we want you in return to take responsibility to create educational opportunities. So what does that mean? Educational opportunities, right? It
Mhm.
means invest in upskilling, invest in training, invest in the individual, whether it might be their mental well-being, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My team I haven't hired. What should I say? Okay, there's one person on my team who I would probably say is actually he's probably one of the smartest people, if not the smartest person I've ever met on the planet when it comes to problem solving, right? Um, he's had a phenomenal education. He's an incredibly hard worker. To the point I have to tell him to stop working. And I think that companies need to actually say, right, if we want to get ahead, if we really care about diversity and inclusion, and it's not just lip service, put your money where your mouth is. Invest, invest, right? And
Right.
I assure you that the outcome is going to be you're going to retain the best people, you're going to encourage the best people, right? You're going to have a stronger workforce, a more loyal workforce, I was very fortunate that I worked for a company for several years that within the realms of like some form of red tape, because there has to be in companies that grow exponentially. There was a lot of creative freedom, and they gave me the opportunity to learn how do you build a company from 7 people to 7,000 people, right? But very people are afforded that opportunity. And I would say one thing, that's the benefit of going to a startup. That's the benefit of joining a great scale up with a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
Right. That's the benefit. And if you go to a big corporate, unfortunately, and it's not the corporate's fault, it's just the reality of the situation, you don't get those opportunities. So, one thing that I want to add to our 3-year plan is, much more investment in helping our clients create opportunities to those that have not been afforded to them. And you can, label it diversity, equity, and inclusion. You
Right.
can label it just being decent, right? You can label it as actually companies being smart and investing in their people. But irrespective, it comes down to helping companies educate their team and creating opportunity where there isn't any.
So I know like the platform has been live for a while. So you actually have companies signed up, you have
Yeah.
developers signed up. What are some of the feedback each side has given you? Like what have they really liked or what even disliked about the platform that y'all are going to improve on?
Well, we'll tell you what. Let's start with what they disliked, right? Because it's kind of probably a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
When we started selling Rayon, companies didn't get it. They were like, "Wait, so it's a recruitment platform, but we don't have our recruiters on it, right?" They didn't quite get the fact that we were saying, "Be honest, be open. Don't shy away from being transparent about what are your views on diversity inclusion. What are your views on mental well-being? What are you actually doing to support charities and causes that you preach about?" And there was a bit of a learning curve. I had to actually go to their offices and show them. And I think that if you're resilient and if you're persistent enough, you're going to find companies that go, actually, let's give this a shot, right? And the negative side that I found was that companies were skeptical about being so transparent with developers. And we're not there yet. We haven't. It's not the full article, but again, I'm going to more and more of these companies and actually just speaking to them about it, because that's what developers want, right? So
Yeah.
that's the negative. I want companies posting like more on there, right? They do a lot, but they could do more. The positives to it. I mean, the positive side of it, I would say, for particularly for the developers, is that they're not going to waste time, right? If I go to a company now, I want to go to a company that is going to be offering me stock options. I want to go to a company that's going to be offering me equity. I don't want to have to go through 5 rounds of interview to find they don't offer these things, right? On Rayon, you can just see straight away, am I going to be offered stock options? And not only am I going to be offered stock options or equity, what do I have to do to earn those stock options? What do I have to do to earn that equity? Right? Inevitably, we work to earn money, right? We're fortunate that we live in a time where, more and more opportunity is arising. And we want the developers to go on there and say, actually, this company isn't right for me. I don't need to go through 5 rounds of interviews. I don't need to do a coding challenge that is take up 2 hours, right? Do you know how often I have companies say to me now, they're like, yeah, we're not sure about coding challenges. It doesn't really tell us exactly what we need to know. Of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. Do you know what no AI can do? Do you not know machine learning can do right now? Is actually pick up the phone and take the time to just talk to the candidate, find out about them. One of the problems companies are having right now is that they're making offers to candidates and they are getting to even the day before or the day that the candidate is meant to start, and the candidates aren't turning up for work because they've taken an opportunity at another company. If you have your internal recruiter spend less time searching, more time on the phone, more time learning about the candidate and more time educating the candidate about what is the culture of the company, and not just the culture, what is the micro culture. Because if you go to a company, you have two cultures. You have the overall culture of the company, right, which comes from the CEO, and it can get lost in translation. And then you have the team culture, and developers want to know, who am I going to be reporting to? Who am I going to be learning from? What does the team actually look like? Right? We want to work with people, I think it's cliche for a reason, but cliches are cliche for a reason, but people want to work for others that they admire. They want to work with teams that they admire. And the benefit to the developer is that they get to see the microculture of the company.
So,
Right?
yeah, I was about to say, yeah, Terrence is somebody who recently kind of went through the interview grind, going through all these rounds of interviews. It's like a huge waste of time.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get the job, that's 5 hours wasted, 8 hours wasted. So how does your company work for him? Like, what is the actual hiring process looks like?
Well, first of all, Terrence, you need to sign up for Raionio.
Yeah. The more I hear about it, the more I'm like, man, I should sign up for it, because that transparency. Can I chime in a little bit? What resonated with me, and I hope that other developers are listening to this, is that, and I've talked about this before on the other podcasts and stuff, but I've recently gone through an interview with 7 companies, five to 7-ish companies. And I think 2 out of the 7 I got really far in, but there was like several rounds of interviews. I mean, days and hours, not just like of actual interviewing, but just like the grind of studying and practicing and rehearsing answers and trying to, like, I used to call it the dog and pony show. Like, like, oh yeah, I know this and I know that and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, after a while you get burnt out, right? And sometimes the whole process is tiring even after the initial interview, right? And you're stuck in that limbo phase of, did I get the job? Did I not get the job? Right? And to have that level of transparency of just be honest. It's like, if I didn't make it, like, just tell me right away. Like a minute after the interview is done, call me up and say, hey, you didn't make it. I'd appreciate that versus waiting. Let's wait a week. Let's wait 2 weeks. Let's talk to another candidate. If there's other candidates that are involved, then tell me that, right? If the compensation that I'm looking for, right? If I tell a recruiter a compensation and I break the bank because they're looking to pay something that's far less than what I'm asking for, let me know. And we can come to some type of agreement. If I like the company's culture, if I liked who I interviewed with, if I like the whole process, we can work something out. Don't just say, okay, well, they cost too much. We're not even going to try and negotiate with them because they seem like they want too much. I feel like a platform like what you're suggesting, or what you've got going for you, is it could jump off really, like, it could blow up. It could blow up if you play your cards right. Even for like smaller startups, maybe not like larger corporations, but definitely smaller startups that they only have X amount of dollars, and they only have so much time to not waste, but just use, hiring people, or interviewing people, I guess that you could say. So, I'd appreciate some more transparency in the whole recruitment / job hiring process. Because
to answer your question,
yeah.
How much did you know about those 7 companies? Like, really know about them before you hired from them? How much did you know about culture?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very little. Like, I had to do, even before the initial phone interview, it was a lot of, let me Google this company. Let me look, besides the job description, because sometimes the job description is just all the good stuff that you want to hear, right? Here's the up to this much salary, right? Okay, well, what's the real salary, right? Because the real salary, you could say up to 120K plus stock options, but there's a zero in that up to, right? Like, you could pay me $1 a month or whatever. I'm not saying that that's possible, but the whole idea is like, what's the real number in that pays up to this much, can earn this much? Are there stock options? Is that equity, etc.?
So how do you go about making a decision as to what companies to apply for?
I more so, I look for like a skill set match, like because I don't want to put myself into a situation where, yeah, say I can learn this, and yeah, that's cool, I can learn that, but you know, saying that you can learn something and then being under that pressure of, okay, here's day one, here's a task, get it done. I feel personally that I don't want to put myself into a situation where I get into a new job, I leave one job for another job, and it's a
Yeah.
completely different beast than what I've expected.
Yeah.
And now I have to hit the ground running in an environment that I'm not aware of. And especially with work from home, it's not. I can't just turn around and be like, "Hey, do you have a second?" There's nobody behind me, and I have to slack somebody and hope that they have the time to show me the ropes. Um, so yeah, like, and I'll finish it off with this. That's some of the questions that I ask companies initially up front is, what's the compensation like? And I try to get as much information as possible from the get go, because I don't want to end up 7 or 5 interviews down the line and we end up not clicking.
Yeah.
So, like, compensation is one, work life balance is another. Onboarding process is also something that I value, because you know I might pass your coding interviews, but I don't want to be put into a situation where you think that I'm a genie and a wizard and I can do whatever and I don't need
Right.
backup.
Yeah.
Because if I get stuck on something, sure, I might be able to figure it out. But if you expect it to get done in a week and I spend 4 days figuring out the problem and I just barely make that, like things just barely start to click at 4 days, and now I've got 3 days to figure out a solution. Uh, we're gonna end up in a bad time. So I try to
Mm.
stay away from those type of situations and those type of companies. Um, yeah, yeah,
Well, I was going to say,
uh,
I mean, I've got to say that I think that's the risk of joining a startup, though, right? That's one thing I
yeah,
will say.
yeah,
That's the risk. When you join a startup, um, you know, when they hire a full stack developer, they might want a
yes,
whole tech department, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first job, and I was very persistent, and I had a very rough time getting that first job. But I had somebody just take that risk, take that gamble on me. And there was a lot of anxiety and a lot of work and persistence and arrogant. It's just a lot of emotion, I guess you could say,
Right.
that was in that 6 month to year ramp up process. And uh, I would say that, like, I think it would have saved me a lot of time if like just digging through a lot of the rubbish, I guess you could say, of who's actually willing to take on a junior developer. Like, ideally, I think your platform is really good for, like, junior developers, because you can see what startups are actually willing to pick up an entry level person and not just say, yeah, entry level job, 5-7 years of experience. They need to know full stack, front end and back end, and they need to have a degree. Like, you're not asking for an entry level developer. The title says entry level, but you're looking for somebody more senior. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, in terms of developers and recruiters, there's kind of I hear companies say, like, the market is honestly, it's kind of like really saturated. So the company's problem is filtering out all the candidates, whereas the candidates' problem is the correct amount of visibility. So, like, how does your platform help, like, each side? Like, how do the companies filter out the candidates they don't want, and how do the candidates, like, showcase their stuff?
So we're actually in the process of actually updating the candidate profile.
Okay.
And again, we're encouraging developers to not just write about what their work experience is, but what do they achieve at that company? How do they increase productivity? Like
Mm.
that's what companies really care about. You know, they want to know about who you are as a person, and they want to know about, actually, in your previous job, what did you truly achieve for that company? You know,
Mm.
can't put all the responsibility on the company. Say companies need to have better hiring processes.
Mhm.
Companies need to make it easier and more transparent for companies. Developers need to take responsibility and make it easier for companies. And
Mm.
one problem that we find in the development world is, you know, developers can exaggerate, right?
Yeah.
Developers can exaggerate.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's always going to be that element of trust. There should always be that element of trust. But again, you know, with regards to the updates that we're making, again, I don't want to give
Mm.
too much away, but what we are doing is encouraging developers to talk about the productivity that they've achieved in their previous jobs, and
Mm.
how they went about that. Right? It's all well and good saying, "Oh, I worked at whatever amazing company." Right? You
Mm.
worked at, but what do you do for them? What did you do to help the company improve?
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
and what did you do that goes beyond the realms of just sitting there and developing? You know, a lot of the time, and what these companies are struggling for right now, you you don't want to hire 10 people where they all have ambitions of becoming CEO, right? It's dangerous and
Yeah.
it doesn't work. But companies are struggling to find leadership within within their hires. They're struggling to find people that have, like, you know, grabbed the bull by the horns and taken responsibility.
Mm.
So what we're encouraging people to, and they can lie. We can, you know, companies always say, "Hey, how can you do it so that it's verified?" We can't, you know, we can't. That's the reality. But what we can do is create opportunity for companies to share where they've increased productivity, and then it comes down to the role of the internal recruiter to the company to make sure they're asking the relevant questions and taking the time to get to know that person well enough to see whether or not they are the right fit for their company
Mm.
as well.
Yeah. Uh, I do have one question that comes to mind, and is how do you? Okay, so when I was first like applying, my resume was just like full of buzzwords, and I could get past the whole like filter, you know, that whole filter. Of if you don't match these buzzwords, then just straight to the bin. But I didn't write about impact, and so is your platform, does it take in a resume and scan it and
Yep.
import the relevant information? Do you think it'd be valuable to maybe assess the resume and say, hey, you're like, to try and pick out, is there impactful information? Like, is
Sure.
it strong in this area or weak in providing actual impact? Or is it more so just picking it out and inserting that information into a profile? Like, how do you assess the resume / profile to make sure that that a candidate is actually writing something
Sure.
that's impactful?
Sure. So I mean, to answer your question, the first thing I want to say, and this is, you know, some advice to anyone applying for their first tech role, or sorry, their first role, or, you know, think of your resume as a profit and loss account, right? Think of your resume as something whereby an internal recruiter is going to look for keywords. They are, right. They're going to look
Mm-hmm.
for key skills. They've also got about 20 seconds, and that's me being generous, to look at your CV. So that's where a platform like Rayon adds value. We do actually take, you know, we obviously do read the CV, and we essentially pass the CV. So it's added to the candidate's profile. We then also create a shortlist for the companies of skills that the candidate has, and we internally rank the skills based on the quality of the CV, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't do is share that information with the companies. It's hidden from companies. And the reason why we hide it from companies is because of the fact that it's not fair to rank someone on how proficient they are in JavaScript or React, you know, based on how good their resume is. Some people are just really bad at doing resumes. But
Mm-hmm.
my advice to anyone that is actually doing a resume is to think of it as a profit and loss account, and think of it as something whereby a company is going to evaluate it in seconds. So again, don't just list your skills, but actually write down what have you done for the company, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's what companies want to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of coming up on an hour, man. Did you have any closing remarks that you wanted to make?
No, just that, one thing I will say is that, we're very open to suggestions. My
Mhm.
mobile number is even on the website, and it's genuinely my mobile number.
Okay.
I don't know if that was the smartest thing to do. My phone's going all the time, but one thing I will say is that I've constantly got developers contacting me. They're very open to just like, saying, hey, can you build this or include this
Mm.
feature? Others will see if there's any opportunities at Rayon or how do they get the most out of the platform. I'm very happy to make the time to speak to people, and if
Okay.
I can help you, then I will.
And just in case they missed it, where do they find your platform at? What is the URL?
Well, Rayon.io,
Okay.
Raion. Oh, I had to think about that one, didn't I? So Rayon.io,
RAION.io.
that's the one.
All right. That was good talking to y'all. We'll catch y'all next time.